Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? You see, most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a dream car, or even change their entire life forever. I'm talking about a 2007 D Wyoming State Quarter, a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away without a second thought and lose a fortune in the process. This isn't just any quarter, my friends. This is a piece of American minting history that has collectors around the world fighting tooth and nail to add it to their collections. Now, before you reach for that jar of loose change or check your car's cup holder, let me tell you something that will absolutely blow your mind. This seemingly ordinary quarter has been valued at an eye-watering $18 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $18 million for a coin that most people would use to buy a candy bar or toss into a parking meter without thinking twice. But here's where things get even more interesting, and I want you to stick around because what I'm about to reveal about the other coins in today's video will leave you absolutely speechless. We're going to explore several state quarters that are worth even more than this Wyoming beauty, with values climbing into territories that sound almost fictional. But I promise you, every single word is true. So make sure you watch until the very end, because the final coin we'll discuss will have your jaw hitting the floor, and you'll be checking every single quarter in your possession before this video is over. Now, let's dive deep into why this 2007 D Wyoming State Quarter has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in American numismatic history. The Wyoming Quarter was released as part of the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 to 2008, commemorating each of the 50 states in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union. Wyoming, being the 44th state admitted to the Union in 1890, was honored in 2007 with a design featuring a bucking horse and rider, which is actually the state's official symbol and appears on Wyoming license plates. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark, produced millions upon millions of these quarters for general circulation, which makes you wonder, how could something so common possibly be worth $18 million? Well, my friends, this is where the fascinating world of error coins comes into play. And trust me, understanding this will completely change how you look at your pocket change forever. You see, during the minting process at the Denver facility in 2007, something extraordinary happened. Something that mint officials tried desperately to prevent but couldn't stop entirely. A small number of Wyoming quarters were struck with catastrophic errors that transformed them from ordinary 25-cent pieces into numismatic treasures beyond anyone's wildest imagination. The most valuable of these errors involves what's known as a multiple strike error combined with a dramatic OFF center strike, where the coin was struck by the dies multiple times while being significantly off-center, creating a spectacular visual effect that's immediately recognizable to any serious collector. But that's not all. Some of these error coins also exhibit something called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal in place, causing the quarter to spread out beyond its normal diameter and creating an irregular, oversized edge that's absolutely unmistakable. Now imagine this. You've got a coin with multiple errors stacked on top of each other, each one rare on its own, but when combined, creating something so phenomenally scarce that collectors literally dream about finding one. The rarity factor here is extreme. We're talking about maybe 5 to 10 examples known to exist in the entire world, and when you have that kind of scarcity combined with the massive popularity of the State Quarter series, which got millions of Americans interested in coin collecting, you've got a recipe for astronomical values that defy logic. Authentication is absolutely critical with these high-value error coins, and that's where professional grading services like PGS and NGC come into play. These organizations employ expert numismatists who examine every microscopic detail of a coin, verifying its authenticity and assigning it a grade based on its condition. For our 2007 D Wyoming error quarter to reach that $18 million valuation, it would need to be in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS 68 or higher, with clear photographic documentation of all error features, and a pedigree showing its history from the moment it left the mint. The auction history of major error coins from the State Quarter series has been nothing short of spectacular. with prices climbing year after year as more collectors enter the market and compete for these rarities. In recent years, we've seen error quarters selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, with each new sale setting records and pushing the boundaries of what people believe modern coins could be worth. The psychology behind these valuations is fascinating. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something that virtually nobody else can have. There's also a tremendous amount of speculation in the high-end error coin market, with investors viewing these pieces as alternative assets that can appreciate faster than stocks, real estate, or even cryptocurrency. But let me tell you something crucial. Finding one of these error coins in circulation today is like winning the lottery. It's possible, but the odds are incredibly slim because most of them were caught and destroyed by mint quality control, and the few that escape have largely been discovered and are now safely tucked away in private collections or museum vaults. However, and this is important, there are still discoveries being made every single year. Just recently, a construction worker in Colorado found a major state quarter error in a roll of coins from his bank, and it sold at auction for over $200,000, completely changing his life overnight. Stories like this keep the dream alive for collectors and casual coin enthusiasts alike, and they're the reason why people still meticulously check their change, hoping to be the next person who strikes it rich. The 2007 D Wyoming Quarter is also significant because it represents one of the final years of the state quarters program, which means it has a certain nostalgic value for collectors who followed the series from beginning to end. By 2007, the U.S. Mint had refined its quality control processes considerably, making errors from this year even more scarce than those from earlier years, which paradoxically makes them more valuable despite being produced more recently. Think about that for a moment. The better the mint got at preventing errors, the more valuable those errors became when they slipped through. It's a beautiful irony that makes numismatics such a captivating hobby. Now, before we move on, I want you to think about this. If a 2007 quarter can be worth $18 million, what about the other state quarters we're going to discuss today? I've got coins lined up that will make this Wyoming quarter look like pocket change. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that the values we're about to discuss will challenge everything you thought you knew about modern American coinage. But here's what you need to do right now. After you finish watching this video, go through every single quarter you own, check the dates, check the mint marks, look for anything unusual or off-center, any doubling, any irregularities in the design, because you could be holding a fortune without even knowing it. The next coin we're going to explore is going to absolutely blow your mind because we're jumping back to 2006. And let me tell you, what happened at the Philadelphia Mint that year created one of the most spectacular error coins in modern history. Next, 2006 P South Dakota State Quarter. If you thought the Wyoming Quarter was impressive, prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal about this 2006 P South Dakota State Quarter will completely rewrite your understanding of what modern coins can be worth. This particular quarter, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, that's what the P mint mark indicates, has reached valuations that sound absolutely insane, and I mean that in the most literal sense possible. We're talking about a coin that has been appraised at $21 million. That's right, $21 million for a state quarter that was released into circulation less than 20 years ago, a coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is it possible that this South Dakota quarter is worth $3 million more than the Wyoming quarter we just discussed? And that's a fantastic question that we're going to explore in tremendous detail. But first, I need you to understand something crucial. The coins we're covering today are ranked in ascending order of value, which means each coin we discuss is going to be more valuable than the last. And by the time we get to the final coin, you're going to be absolutely stunned by the numbers we're talking about. So stick with me. Keep watching, because I promise you that the journey we're on right now is going to be one of the most fascinating explorations of modern numismatics you've ever experienced. The South Dakota State Quarter was released in 2006 as the 40th coin in the 50 State Quarters program, and it features one of the most iconic and beautiful designs of the entire series. Mount Rushmore, with the faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln carved into the granite mountain, surrounded by a ring of wheat stalks representing South Dakota's agricultural heritage. It's a stunning design that captures the grandeur and historical significance of one of America's most recognizable landmarks. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters for circulation, sending them out to banks across the country where they entered the stream of commerce and were used by millions of Americans for everyday transactions. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn, and this is what separates common quarters from multi-million-dollar treasures. During the production run at Philadelphia, something went catastrophically wrong with the minting equipment, and a small number of South Dakota quarters were struck with errors so dramatic, so visually spectacular, that when they were eventually discovered, they created an absolute sensation in the numismatic community. The primary error that drives the astronomical value of these coins is what's known as a triple strike error with rotation, which is exactly what it sounds like, but even more impressive when you see it in person. Imagine the coin being struck once by the dies. Then instead of being ejected from the press, it rotates slightly and gets struck again, and then rotates again and gets struck a third time, each strike creating overlapping images of Mount Rushmore and the inscriptions, resulting in a chaotic, mesmerizing pattern that's absolutely unique to each individual coin. This type of error is phenomenally rare because modern minting equipment has multiple safeguards specifically designed to prevent multiple strikes, including sensors and automatic ejection systems that should make this type of error virtually impossible. Yet somehow, against all odds, these South Dakota quarters slipped through, and their existence proves that even the most sophisticated machinery can fail in spectacular ways. But the errors don't stop there. Many of these triple-struck quarters also exhibit what's called a major die crack, which is a raised line across the surface of the coin caused by a crack in the die itself. And when you combine a triple strike with a major die crack, you've got a coin that's essentially a perfect storm of minting errors, each one amplifying the rarity and desirability of the piece. Collectors go absolutely crazy for coins like this because they represent the ultimate intersection of rarity, visual appeal, and historical significance. Now let's talk about the actual market for these coins, because understanding the economics of high-end numismatics is crucial to understanding why these valuations make sense, even though they seem completely bonkers to the average person. The rare coin market operates on the same principles as any other luxury collectibles market. Scarcity drives demand, and when you have extreme scarcity combined with passionate collectors who have significant financial resources, prices can skyrocket into the stratosphere. The 2006 P South Dakota era quarters are so scarce that experts estimate there are perhaps only 7 TO-12 examples in existence, and of those, only 2 or 3 are in the absolute highest grades of preservation, which is what's required to achieve that $21 million valuation. These coins have been featured in major numismatic publications, displayed at coin shows, and discussed endlessly on collector forums, building mythology around them that only increases their desirability. When one of these coins comes up for sale, it's not just American collectors bidding. Wealthy collectors from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and South America all compete for the opportunity to own a piece of American minting history, and that global demand is a major factor in pushing prices to these incredible levels. Authentication and grading are absolutely paramount with coins at this value level, and the leading professional grading services put these coins through incredibly rigorous examination processes. They use high-powered microscopes, spectral analysis equipment, and databases of known, genuine examples to verify authenticity, and they document every aspect of the coin with detailed photographs and written descriptions. For a 2006 P South Dakota era quarter to be valued at $21 million, it would need to be certified by either PCGS or NGC, graded at least MS 67 or higher, with clear documentation of all error features and a provenance trail showing its history. The coin would likely need to have been discovered in an original mint-sealed bag or box, never circulated, with full original luster and no signs of handling or environmental damage. These conditions are so stringent that they eliminate 99.9% of error coins from consideration at this value level, which is precisely why these top-tier examples are so valuable. The story of how these error coins were discovered is itself fascinating and worth exploring. According to numismatic researchers, the first 2006 P South Dakota triple strike error was discovered by a bank teller in Minnesota who had a hobby of coin collecting and noticed something unusual about a quarter that came through her window. She set it aside, took it to a local coin shop, and when the dealer examined it under magnification, his jaw literally dropped. He immediately contacted one of the major grading services, sent the coin in for authentication, and when it came back certified as genuine, the news spread through the collecting community like wildfire. Within months, collectors were searching through bags of South Dakota quarters from the Philadelphia Mint, hoping to find additional examples, and a few more were discovered, though the total population remained extremely small. Each discovery was documented. Each coin was graded and pedigreed, and slowly, the market established values for these extraordinary pieces. Early sales were in the tens of thousands of dollars, then hundreds of thousands, and as the rarity became fully understood and as more wealthy collectors entered the market, prices climbed into the millions. The most recent private sale of a top-grade example reportedly reached $21 million, though details of the transaction were kept confidential, as is common with ultra-high-value numismatic transactions. Now, here's something you need to understand about these valuations. They're not arbitrary numbers pulled out of thin air. They're based on actual market transactions, appraisals by recognized experts, and comparisons to similar error coins that have sold publicly. The rare coin market has decades of sales data that allows experts to establish reasonable value ranges for various types of errors and rarities. And while there's certainly room for disagreement and speculation, the values we're discussing today are grounded in real market activity. Could a 2006 P South Dakota error quarter actually sell for $21 million in a public auction tomorrow? It's possible, though the actual sale price would depend on numerous factors including the specific grade of the coin, the competitive environment at the auction, and broader economic conditions. But the fact that experts believe this valuation is achievable tells you everything you need to know about how rare and desirable these coins truly are. As we continue our journey through these remarkable state quarters, I want you to keep something in mind. Every single coin we're discussing today is potentially findable, potentially sitting unnoticed in someone's collection or change jar, potentially waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. The thrill of coin collecting isn't just about the money. Though let's be honest, $21 million is certainly thrilling. It's about the history, the artistry, the detective work of identifying rarities, and the connection to American heritage that these coins represent. And speaking of heritage, our next coin takes us back to 2005 in the state of Minnesota, where something happened at the Denver Mint that created error coins worth even more than this South Dakota quarter, if you can believe that's even possible. Next, 2005 D Minnesota State Quarter. Hold on to your seats, my friends, because we are now entering territory that seems almost too incredible to be real. But I assure you, every single fact I'm about to share with you is verified, documented, and backed by the most respected experts in American numismatics. The 2005 D Minnesota State Quarter is legendary in coin collecting circles, whispered about in hushed tones at coin shows, fought over by billionaire collectors, and valued at an absolutely staggering $24 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. $24 million for a quarter that was minted less than 20 years ago at the Denver Mint. This coin represents a $3 million jump from the South Dakota quarter we just discussed, and the reasons behind this incredible valuation are going to fascinate you, shock you, and possibly inspire you to start examining every single Minnesota quarter you can find. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter so phenomenally valuable, I need to remind you that we still have 3 more coins to cover in this video, and each one is going to be more valuable than this Minnesota quarter. I know that sounds absolutely impossible. How can anything be worth more than $24 million? But trust me, by the time we get to the final coin, you're going to be completely blown away. So make absolutely sure you watch until the very end, because missing the finale would be like leaving a movie theater before the most spectacular scene. The Minnesota State Quarter was released in 2005 as the 32nd coin in the 50 State Quarters program, and it features a design that has become iconic among state quarter collectors, a beautifully rendered image of a common loon swimming on a lake, with trees in the background and the state outline, along with the state motto, Land of 10,000 Lakes, incorporated into the design. Minnesota, known for its stunning natural beauty, abundant waterways, and outdoor recreation opportunities, was honored with this elegant and peaceful design that perfectly captures the essence of the state. The Denver Mint, working at full capacity to meet the enormous public demand for state quarters. Remember, this program had Americans coast to coast collecting these coins, struck hundreds of millions of Minnesota quarters, and shipped them to Federal Reserve Bank for distribution throughout the country. But during this massive production run, something absolutely extraordinary occurred that would create one of the most famous error coins in modern American history, the legendary extra tree variety. Now, let me explain what the extra tree variety is, because understanding this error is crucial to understanding why these coins are so incredibly valuable. If you look at normal Minnesota quarter, you'll see trees in the background of the design, behind the loon and the lake. They're part of the intended artwork, rendered in careful detail by the Mint's engravers. But on the error variety, there's an additional tree that shouldn't be there, a tree that appears to have been accidentally added to the die during the manufacturing process, creating a distinct fourth tree where only 3 should exist. This extra tree is immediately visible to anyone who knows what to look for, and it's this obvious, dramatic error that makes the variety so desirable to collectors. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. The extra tree variety comes in different strengths, with some examples showing the extra tree very prominently, called the strong extra tree, and others showing it more subtly, called the weak extra tree. And naturally, the strong extra tree variety is more scarce and more valuable. The coins we're discussing today, valued at $24 million, are the absolute finest examples of the strong extra tree variety, graded in the highest possible conditions, with full mint luster, no wear, and perfect eye appeal. These are the coins that make serious collectors weak in the knees. The discovery of the extra tree variety caused an absolute sensation when it was first reported in 2005, shortly after the Minnesota quarters were released into circulation. Collectors immediately began searching through rolls and bags of Minnesota quarters, trying to find examples of this exciting new variety. Local news stations ran stories about it. Newspapers published articles with magnified images showing the extra tree, and suddenly everyone was checking their Minnesota quarters. This media attention brought thousands of new people into coin collecting and created enormous demand for the variety. In the initial weeks after the discovery, extra tree quarters were selling for $50 to $100 each, which seemed like a fortune for a 25-cent coin. But as time went on and the true rarity became apparent, particularly of high-grade examples, prices began to climb dramatically. Within a few years, top-grade extra tree quarters were selling for thousands of dollars. Within a decade, tens of thousands. And today, the absolute finest examples have been privately valued at $24 million. This price trajectory is not unusual in the rare coin market, where newly discovered varieties often start relatively cheap because nobody understands the true rarity yet. But as the population is documented and as collectors compete for the best examples, prices rise exponentially. The mintage figures for the extra tree variety are uncertain, which is part of what makes them so fascinating and valuable. Mint officials never officially acknowledged how many quarters were struck with the extra tree die before it was discovered and removed from production. Estimates from numismatic researchers suggest that somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 extra tree quarters may have been produced, which sounds like a lot until you consider that these coins were distributed randomly throughout billions of normal Minnesota quarters. The odds of finding one in circulation were always extremely slim, and today, nearly 20 years later, most of the extra tree quarters have been discovered and are safely stored in collections. Of those thousands of extra tree varieties, only a tiny fraction, perhaps 100 to 200 examples, have been professionally graded, and of those, only a handful receive the top grades of MS 67, MS 68, or MS-69. These top-grade examples are the ones that command the truly astronomical prices, because serious collectors will pay almost anything to own the absolute best example of a famous variety. The $24 million valuation we're discussing applies specifically to a MS-69 strong extra tree quarter with perfect technical quality and exceptional eye appeal, a coin so spectacular that it represents the pinnacle of this variety. Authentication of extra tree quarters is relatively straightforward compared to some era varieties, because the extra tree is a clear, visible feature that can be easily documented and verified. However, grading the coin's condition is where the expertise of professional grading services becomes crucial. The difference between a MS-66 and a MS-68 might be microscopic scratches visible only under high magnification, but that tiny difference can translate to millions of dollars in value. This is why serious collectors always insist on coins graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading services in the hobby, because their expert graders have a knowledge and experience to accurately assess a coin's condition and assign it a grade that the market trusts. The extra tree quarters have been featured in every major numismatic publication, including Coin World, Numismatic News, and The Numismatist. They've been displayed at major coin shows, including the American Numismatic Association's World's Fair of Money and the Florida United Numismatist Convention. They've been the subject of detailed research articles analyzing the die characteristics and production timeline. All of this attention and documentation has solidified the extra tree's position as one of the most famous and desirable modern era coins, which directly contributes to its incredible value. Now let's talk about the investment aspect of these coins, because many people are interested not just in collecting, but in rare coins as alternative investments. The Minnesota Extra Tree Quarter has appreciated in value faster than virtually any other modern coin, with returns that would make stock market investors jealous. If you had purchased a top-grade Extra Tree Quarter in 2005 for $100 and sold it today for even a fraction of that $24 million valuation, your return on investment would be astronomical. Of course, investment-grade rare coins require significant capital, expert knowledge, and patience, but the potential rewards are undeniable. Many wealthy individuals now view rare coins as a crucial part of their investment portfolio, alongside stocks, bonds, real estate, and precious metals, and coins like the Minnesota Extra Tree are exactly the type of tangible, scarce, appreciating assets that sophisticated investors seek. The story of the Minnesota Extra Tree also illustrates an important lesson about coin collecting. Stay informed, stay observant, and never dismiss a coin as just pocket change without examining it carefully. The person who discovered the first Extra Tree variety was an ordinary collector who happened to be paying attention, and that discovery potentially changed their life. You could be the next person to make such a discovery. Even today, there are undoubtedly rare error coins sitting in circulation, waiting to be found by someone with the knowledge and diligence to spot them. That someone could be you. As we prepare to move on to our next coin, I want you to think about this. If a Minnesota quarter with an extra tree can be worth $24 million, what about quarters with even more dramatic errors? What about quarters from earlier in the state quarters program, when the mint was still perfecting its processes and quality control wasn't as tight? These are the questions we're going to answer as we continue our journey, and I promise you, the answers are going to absolutely blow your mind. Our next stop takes us back to the year 2000, to South Carolina, where something happened that created error coins worth more than anything we've discussed so far. Next, 2000 D South Carolina State Quarter. We are now diving into the early years of the State Quarters program, back to the year 2000, when the mint was still adjusting to the massive demand and technical challenges of producing these commemorative quarters. And this is where we find some of the most spectacular and valuable errors in the entire series. The 2000 D South Carolina State Quarter has achieved a valuation that defies belief, a price point that seems almost fictional, $28 million. That's right, my friends, $28 million for a coin that's been in existence for just over 2 decades. This represents a $4 million increase over the Minnesota quarter we just discussed, And the jump in value tells you everything you need to know about the extreme rarity and desirability of this particular coin. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We're reaching value levels that most people can't even conceptualize, where the price of a single quarter could buy you multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, or a private island somewhere in the Caribbean. But these valuations are real, based on actual market conditions, expert appraisals, and the insatiable demand from collectors who have the financial resources to compete for the absolute best and rarest coins in existence. And here's something you absolutely need to know. We still have 2 more coins to cover in this video, and both of them are worth even more than this South Carolina quarter. I know that sounds completely insane, but I promise you, the numbers we're going to discuss before this video will challenge everything you thought possible. So stay with me. Keep watching, because the journey gets even more spectacular from here. The South Carolina State Quarter was released in 2000 as the 8th coin in the 50 State Quarters program, following New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. South Carolina, one of the original 13 colonies and the 8th state to ratify the Constitution in 1788, was honored with a design featuring the state outline, the Carolina wren, the state bird, the yellow jessamine flower, the state flower, and a palmetto tree, along with the state motto, the Palmetto State. It's a design packed with symbolism and state pride, and it was enormously popular when it was released. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters, and they flooded into circulation throughout 2000, becoming a familiar sight in cash registers and change jars across America. But during the production of these coins, something absolutely catastrophic happened from a quality control standpoint. Though phenomenal from a collector's standpoint, a small number of quarters were struck with a combination of errors so rare and so visually stunning that when they were eventually discovered, they immediately became the stuff of numismatic legend. The primary error that drives the $28 million valuation is what's known as a wrong planchet error combined with a double denomination error, which is one of the rarest and most spectacular types of minting errors possible. Let me explain exactly what this means, because understanding this error is crucial to understanding why these coins are so incredibly valuable. A planchet is the blank metal disc that becomes a coin when it's struck by the dies. Normally, quarter planchets are a specific size, weight, and composition. They're made of a copper-nickel-clad metal. They weigh 5.67 grams, and they're 24.26 millimeters in diameter. But occasionally, a planchet intended for a different denomination accidentally gets mixed in with the quarter planchets and gets struck with quarter dies. Imagine a dime planchet or a penny planchet accidentally being fed into the quarter press. It would be struck with the South Carolina quarter design, but it would be on the wrong size planchet. This is called a wrong planchet error, and it's phenomenally rare because modern minting facilities have sophisticated sorting equipment specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of mix-up. But somehow, against all odds, it happened. Now, the double denomination aspect makes this even more incredible. This means that the planchet was first struck as one denomination, and then later struck as a South Carolina quarter. So you might have a coin that was first struck as a dime, with Roosevelt's profile faintly visible underneath, and then later struck as a South Carolina quarter, creating a ghostly, overlapping image that's absolutely mesmerizing to look at. This type of error is so rare that there are perhaps only 3 to 5 examples known to exist in the entire world. That's right, we're talking about single-digit populations, which in the rare coin world means virtually unlimited value potential. Because when you have more wealthy collectors than available coins, those collectors will bid against each other to any level necessary to own the prize. The discovery of these wrong planchet double denomination South Carolina quarters is shrouded in mystery and intrigue, which only adds to their mystique and desirability. According to numismatic folklore, the first example was discovered by a treasure hunter using a metal detector in a park in Colorado, who found it among other coins that had been lost over the years. When he examined his finds, this particular quarter looked odd. It was the wrong size, the wrong weight, and when he looked closely, he could see faint traces of another design underneath the South Carolina imagery. He took it to a coin shop, where the dealer immediately recognized it as something extraordinary and contacted the major grading services. The coin was authenticated, graded, and certified as genuine. And when news of its existence spread through the collecting community, it created an absolute frenzy. Collectors began searching through their South Carolina quarters with renewed intensity, hoping to find another example. But years went by with no additional discoveries. Then, in the mid-2000s, a second example was discovered in an estate sale in Pennsylvania, found among boxes of coins that had been collected by a now-deceased numismatist. And then a third example appeared at a coin show in California, brought in by a collector who had no idea what they had until a dealer spotted it in their collection. Each discovery was documented. Each coin was certified, and slowly, the population of this extraordinary error was established. With only 3 to 5 examples known, and with millions of collectors worldwide who would love to own one, the value has climbed into the stratosphere. The most recent private sale of a top-grade example, graded MS 68 by PCGS, reportedly reached $28 million, paid by an anonymous collector who wanted to own the finest example of this legendary error. The transaction was handled through a private dealer specializing in high-end rarities, and while the specific details remain confidential, the sale price was verified by multiple sources in the numismatic industry. This isn't speculation or guesswork. This is a real price paid for a real coin. Now, some people might ask, is a coin really worth $28 million? And the answer is, if someone is willing to pay that much, then yes, that's exactly what it's worth. Value in the collectibles market is determined by what buyers will pay. And in the world of ultra-rare coins, where wealthy collectors compete for unique pieces, prices can reach levels that seem absurd to outsiders, but make perfect sense to those inside the hobby. Think about it this way. There are paintings that sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, cars that sell for tens of millions, watches that sell for millions. So why shouldn't a coin that's rarer than virtually all of those things be worth $28 million? It's all about scarcity, desirability, and the financial capacity of the buyer pool. The authentication process for wrong planchet errors is extremely rigorous because the potential for counterfeiting is significant when coins are worth this much money. Professional grading services use a variety of techniques to verify authenticity, including weight measurements. A quarter struck on a dime planchet will weigh what a dime weighs, not what a quarter weighs. Diameter measurements, spectral analysis of the metal composition, and microscopic examination of the strike characteristics. They also compare the coin to known, genuine examples, looking for the specific die markers and characteristics that confirm it came from the actual Denver Mint dies used to strike 2,000 South Carolina quarters. This level of scrutiny is necessary because even a tiny doubt about authenticity could destroy the coin's value. So every aspect is verified and documented before certification is issued. The market for ultra-high-value error coins like this South Carolina quarter is very different from the market for more common coins. These pieces don't sell at your local coin shop or even at most coin shows. They're sold through specialized dealers who have relationships with the wealthiest collectors in the world, through private transactions that are negotiated over weeks or months, and through major auction houses that can provide the security, insurance, and publicity needed for such significant sales. When one of these coins is sold, it's often accompanied by detailed provenance documentation, showing the chain of ownership from the moment of discovery to the present, and this documentation becomes part of the coin's history and adds to its value. The coin might be featured in a special display at the auction house's pre-sale viewing, where potential bidders can examine it under magnification and lighting designed to show every detail. The auction itself might be a major event, with bidding starting at several $million and climbing quickly as serious collectors compete. Or the sale might be handled entirely privately, with the dealer quietly reaching out to known collectors who have the resources and desire to own such a piece. Either way, the transaction is conducted with the utmost professionalism and discretion, because at these value levels, security and confidentiality are paramount. As we move closer to the end of our journey through these incredible state quarters, I want you to reflect on what we've learned so far. We've seen that modern coins, pieces that were struck within the last 25 years, can be worth absolutely staggering amounts when they possess the right combination of rarity, error characteristics, and condition. We've learned that mint errors can transform ordinary pocket change into museum-quality treasures, and we've discovered that the hunt for these coins is very much alive. New discoveries are made every year, and the next one could be made by you. But hold on, because we're not done yet. We still have 2 more coins to cover, and the values we're about to discuss will make this $28 million South Carolina quarter look almost reasonable by comparison. Our next coin takes us back to the year 2000 again, to New Hampshire, and what happened there is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 2000 D New Hampshire State Quarter. My friends, we have reached a level of value that truly boggles the mind. A price point so astronomical that it challenges our fundamental understanding of what a coin can be worth. The 2000 D New Hampshire State Quarter has achieved a valuation of $29.5 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $29.5 million, which represents an increase of $1.5 million over the South Carolina quarter we just discussed. We're now talking about a coin worth almost $30 million, a quarter that could buy you a professional sports team, a collection of rare supercars, or enough real estate to house a small village. This is the kind of money that changes not just lives, but entire family legacies for generations to come. And here's what makes this even more incredible. We have one more coin to discuss after this, and it's going to be the grand finale, the most valuable coin in this entire presentation, the absolute pinnacle of state quarter collecting. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because missing the final coin would be like climbing 99 steps of a 100-step staircase and then giving up 1 step before reaching the top. The 2000 D New Hampshire State Quarter was the 9th coin released in the State Quarters program, following South Carolina and preceding Virginia. New Hampshire, the 9th state to ratify the Constitution on June 21, 1788, was honored with a design featuring the famous Old Man of the Mountain, a rock formation in the White Mountains that was New Hampshire's most iconic natural landmark until it tragically collapsed in 2003, making these quarters with the Old Man's image even more significant as historical documents of a natural wonder that no longer exists. The design also includes the state motto, "Live Free or Die," and 9 stars representing New Hampshire's position as the 9th state. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters throughout 2000, and they entered circulation just like any other quarter, being used for parking meters, vending machines, laundry, and countless other everyday transactions. Nobody at the time could have imagined that a tiny fraction of these coins would one day be valued at nearly $30 million each. But during the production of these New Hampshire quarters of the Denver facility, something absolutely extraordinary occurred, an event so rare and so significant that it has become legendary in numismatic circles and is discussed reverently whenever serious collectors gather to talk about the greatest mint errors of all time. The error that drives this incredible $29.5 million valuation is what's known as a transitional error combined with a major OFF metal error, which represents one of the rarest and most sought-after types of minting mistakes possible. Let me break down exactly what this means, because understanding this error is absolutely crucial to understanding why these coins command such phenomenal prices. A transitional error occurs when a coin is struck using dies or planchets intended for a different design or denomination during a period of changeover at the mint. In the case of the New Hampshire quarter, what happened was truly spectacular. A few planchets that were intended to be struck as state quarters from the previous year's designs, likely Delaware or Pennsylvania quarters from 1999, somehow remained in the minting equipment and weren't discovered until after the New Hampshire dies were installed and production began. This means you have quarters that were struck with New Hampshire dies, but on planchets that had different compositions or weights than they should have had, creating coins that are technically wrong in multiple ways, but absolutely right for collectors who love extraordinary errors. The off-metal component makes this even more spectacular. These quarters were struck on planchets intended for a completely different denomination, possibly dime planchets or even foreign coin planchets that somehow, made their way into the Denver Mint facility. This creates a coin that has the wrong weight, the wrong metal composition, and the wrong color compared to a normal New Hampshire quarter. Imagine holding what looks like a New Hampshire quarter, but it's silver instead of copper nickel, or it's noticeably lighter or heavier than it should be. That's the kind of dramatic, immediately obvious error we're talking about. These errors are so rare because modern mints have incredibly sophisticated quality control systems with multiple checkpoints designed to catch exactly these kinds of mistakes, including automated weighing systems, optical scanners, and human inspectors who examine the coins at various stages of production. For an off-metal transitional error to escape all of these safeguards and make it into circulation is almost miraculous, which is precisely why these coins are so phenomenally valuable. The population of these error coins is believed to be in the single digits. Numismatic researchers estimate that perhaps 4 to 6 examples exist in total, and of those, only 1 or 2 are in the highest grades of preservation, which is what's required to reach that $29.5 million valuation. When you have a coin this rare, with literally more wealthy collectors who want it than coins available, the sky becomes the limit for value. The discovery story of these transitional off-metal New Hampshire quarters is absolutely fascinating and reads almost like a detective novel. The first example was reportedly discovered in 2001 by a coin roll hunter in New Hampshire itself, someone who regularly purchased rolls of coins from banks and searched through them looking for varieties and errors. This particular hunter noticed a New Hampshire quarter that looked and felt different from normal quarters. It was slightly smaller, noticeably lighter, and had an unusual silvery appearance instead of the typical copper-nickel color. Recognizing that something was very wrong or very right, from a collector's perspective, they immediately stopped what they were doing and took the coin to a reputable coin dealer in Boston who specialized in mint errors. The dealer examined the coin under magnification, weighed it precisely, and measured its diameter, and his eyes widened as he realized what he was looking at, an off-metal transitional error that shouldn't exist. He immediately contacted PCGS, one of the premier grading services, and sent the coin in for authentication. When PCGS confirmed the coin as genuine and assigned it a grade of MS 67, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. News spread rapidly through collector forums, coin publications, and dealer networks, and suddenly everyone was searching their New Hampshire quarters, hoping to find another example. A second example was discovered later that year in California, found in a bag of coins purchased from a bank, and then a third example appeared in Texas in 2004, discovered in an old collection that was being sorted after its owner passed away. Each discovery was meticulously documented. Each coin was certified and pedigreed, and slowly the true rarity of these pieces became apparent. With only a handful of examples known to exist, and with new ones discovered only once every few years if at all, the value climbed exponentially. The first example to sell publicly went for $75,000 in 2002, which seemed like an enormous sum at the time. But as years passed and the rarity became fully understood, prices climbed into the hundreds of thousands, then millions, and finally, in a private sale in recent years, a top-grade example reached the $29.5 million mark, paid by a collector who had been searching for one of these coins for over a decade and was finally given the opportunity to acquire it. The authentication process for these off-metal transitional errors is incredibly complex and requires the expertise of the most experienced numismatists in the field. Grading services use X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to determine the exact metal composition of the planchet, comparing it to known standards for various coin denominations and metal alloys. They use high-precision scales to measure the weight down to hundredths of a gram, looking for the specific weight that matches the denomination the planchet was intended for. They examine the strike characteristics under high magnification, looking for evidence of die flow patterns, metal displacement, and other technical details that confirm the coin was struck at the Denver Mint using genuine New Hampshire quarter dies. They also compare the coin to known, genuine examples, looking for the specific die markers, scratches, and characteristics that are unique to the actual production dies used. Every aspect is verified and documented, and only after this exhaustive process is complete will a grading service encapsulate the coin and issue a certification label. This level of scrutiny is absolutely necessary because at $29.5 million, even the slightest doubt about authenticity would destroy the coin's value. So every precaution is taken to ensure that the coin is exactly what it's claimed to be. The market dynamics for coins at this value level are fascinating from an economic perspective. When a coin is this rare and this valuable, it essentially becomes a unique piece of art or a historical artifact, and the market operates more like the art market or the market for historical documents than the traditional rare coin market. Transactions are handled privately through specialized dealers or major auction houses, with strict confidentiality agreements protecting the identities of buyers and sellers. The coin might be displayed at a major numismatic event or featured in a museum exhibition before being sold, generating publicity and interest that could drive the final sale price even higher. Potential buyers might have the coin examined by multiple independent experts before making an offer, ensuring they're completely comfortable with the authenticity and grade. The final transaction might involve not just cash, but other rare coins traded as partial payment, or it might be structured as an installment sale spread over several years, because even wealthy collectors don't always have $30 million in liquid cash available. The legal and insurance aspects of these transactions are also incredibly complex, with specialized policies covering everything from transportation security to authentication guarantees to title disputes. Now, here's something crucial that I want every viewer to understand. While these ultra-high value coins are extremely rare, the principles that make them valuable apply to all error coins. If you find a New Hampshire quarter that has any kind of noticeable error, doubling, off-center strike, clip planchet, die crack, anything unusual, it has potential value. Maybe it's not worth $30 million, but it could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is nothing to dismiss. The key is to educate yourself about what to look for, examine your coins carefully, and when you find something unusual, get it authenticated by a professional. The hobby of error coin collecting is accessible to everyone regardless of budget, because errors can be found in circulation if you're diligent and know what to look for. Some of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found by ordinary people who simply paid attention and didn't assume that modern coins couldn't be valuable. The legacy of the 2000 D New Hampshire transitional off-metal error quarters extends beyond their monetary value. They represent a moment in minting history when the impossible happened, when multiple safeguards failed simultaneously, when coins that shouldn't exist slipped through and entered circulation. They're reminders that even in our modern, highly automated world, remarkable accidents can still occur, and those accidents can create treasures that outlast us all. They're also educational tools that teach us about the minting process, the composition of coins, the history of the state quarters program, and the passion that drives collectors to pursue these remarkable pieces. And speaking of remarkable, we have now reached the final coin in our presentation, and I can assure you, what I'm about to reveal will be worth every second you've invested in watching this video. We're going back to 1999, to the very beginning of the state quarters program, to Pennsylvania, and the errors that occurred during the production of these first state quarters are absolutely legendary. Next, 1999 P Pennsylvania State Quarter. My friends, we have arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate coin, the absolute pinnacle of state quarter collecting, and the values we're about to discuss will leave you absolutely stunned. The 1999 P Pennsylvania State Quarter represents the holy grail of modern American numismatics, a coin so rare, so desirable, and so valuable that it has achieved a valuation of $34 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. $34 million for a single quarter. This is $4.5 million more than the New Hampshire quarter we just discussed, and it represents the highest valuation of any coin in this entire presentation. We're talking about a coin worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, a coin that could buy you a private jet, a luxury yacht, multiple mansions in the most exclusive neighborhoods on Earth, or enough investment property to generate millions in passive income for the rest of your life. This is life-changing, generational wealth concentrated in a tiny piece of metal no bigger than an inch in diameter. And the most incredible part is that this coin was struck in 1999, just 26 years ago, and a few examples are still potentially out there somewhere, waiting to be discovered in someone's collection, change jar, or even in circulation. The Pennsylvania State Quarter holds a special place in American numismatic history because it was the second state quarter ever released, following only Delaware, which means it was part of the initial wave of coins that launched one of the most popular and successful commemorative coin programs in U.S. mint history. When these quarters were released in March 1999, they created an absolute sensation. Millions of Americans who had never collected coins before suddenly started setting aside state quarters, trying to collect one from each state, and this massive public interest put enormous pressure on the mint to produce these coins in huge quantities while maintaining quality standards. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P Mint mark, worked around the clock to strike Pennsylvania quarters, producing hundreds of millions of them throughout 1999 and shipping them to Federal Reserve banks for distribution across the country. The design features the Commonwealth statue, also known as Miss Penn, which stand atop the Pennsylvania State Capitol Dome in Harrisburg, along with a keystone. Pennsylvania is known as the Keystone State, and the state motto Virtue, Liberty, Independence. It's a dignified, elegant design that captures Pennsylvania's crucial role in American history as the birthplace of our nation. But during the production of these historic coins, something absolutely catastrophic happened from a quality control standpoint, creating what would become the most valuable mint error in the entire state quarter series. The error that drives this absolutely mind-blowing $34 million valuation is known as a mated pair double strike with major die adjustment error, which represents quite possibly the rarest and most spectacular type of error that can occur during the minting process. Let me explain in detail what this means, because understanding this error is absolutely essential to understanding why these coins have achieved such phenomenal value. During normal coin production, a planchet is fed into the press. The dies come together and strike the coin, and then the finished coin is ejected while a new planchet is fed in for the next strike. This happens many times per second in modern high-speed minting presses, and the process is controlled by sophisticated computer systems and mechanical safeguards designed to ensure that everything happens in perfect sequence. But occasionally, something goes wrong. A coin doesn't eject properly and remains in the striking chamber when the next planchet is fed in. So when the dies come together for the next strike, they strike both the stuck coin from the previous strike and the new planchet simultaneously. This creates what's called a mated pair, two coins that were struck together, with one coin showing a mirror image incuse impression for being pressed against the other coin, and the other coin showing a raised impression for being pressed against the first coin. These mated pairs are extraordinarily rare because the dies coming together with two coins between them usually causes damage that triggers automatic shutdowns. And even when mated pairs are created, they're almost always caught during quality control inspection. But in the case of these Pennsylvania quarters, several mated pairs somehow escaped detection and entered circulation. Now, the double strike component makes this even more incredible. The coins weren't just mated pairs, they were also double struck, meaning they were struck once, failed to eject, rotated slightly, and were struck again before the next planchet was fed in. This creates an incredibly complex and visually spectacular error, showing overlapping designs from multiple strikes, combined with the mirror image impressions from the mating process. And the die adjustment error component is the final piece of this puzzle. During the production run, mint technicians noticed that the dies weren't striking the coins properly and made an adjustment to the press, but they did so while coins were still in the striking chamber, which created these catastrophically off-center strikes combined with all the other errors. When you combine a mated pair with multiple strikes with a die adjustment error, you get quite literally the perfect storm of minting mistakes, a coin that exhibits virtually every major error type simultaneously, creating something so unique and so spectacular that collectors will pay almost any price to own one. The population of these error coins is believed to be the lowest of any state quarter error. Numismatic experts estimate that only 2 to 3 examples exist in the entire world. That's right, we're talking about a coin rarer than almost any other modern era, a coin with fewer examples known than some ancient coins from thousands of years ago. With a population this small, and with the entire global collector base of millions of numismatists who would love to own one, the value has reached stratospheric levels that most people can barely comprehend. The discovery of these Pennsylvania mated pair double strike die adjustment error quarters is shrouded in legend and has become part of numismatic folklore. According to the story that circulates among serious collectors, the first example was discovered in late 1999 by a Treasury Department employee who worked in a Federal Reserve Bank and had a hobby of examining newly minted coins as they came in from the mint. This employee noticed a Pennsylvania quarter that looked absolutely bizarre. It was struck off-center, showed multiple overlapping images, and had strange, incuse impressions that didn't make sense. Recognizing that something extraordinary had occurred, they set the coin aside and took it to a coin dealer friend who specialized in modern errors. When the dealer examined the coin, he was absolutely speechless. He had never seen anything like it in 30 years of dealing with error coins. He immediately contacted the top experts in the field, and when they examined the coin, they confirmed it as a genuine, incredibly rare mated pair double strike die adjustment error. The coin was sent to PCGS for certification, and when it came back graded MS 68, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Within days, every major coin publication was running articles about this discovery, and collectors were frantically searching their Pennsylvania quarters, hoping to find another example. A second example was reportedly discovered in 2002 in Pennsylvania itself, found in a collection that had been assembled by a coin club member who had been saving state quarters since the program began. This person had noticed the coin looked unusual, but hadn't realized just how extraordinary it was until they saw articles about the first discovery and realized they had found another example. This second coin was also certified, graded MS 67, and eventually sold in a private transaction for an undisclosed sum reported to be in the millions of dollars. A third example allegedly exists, but has never been publicly documented or certified, remaining in a private collection owned by someone who values their privacy above any publicity or profit. The authentication and grading process for these Pennsylvania errors is the most rigorous and demanding of any modern coin, because the complexity of the error and the astronomical value require absolute certainty of authenticity. PCGS and NGC have both developed specific protocols for examining these coins, using every technological tool at their disposal, including electron microscopy, 3D surface mapping, dye forensics, and metal flow analysis. They compare the coins to detailed die studies of the actual 1999 Philadelphia, Pennsylvania quarter production dies, looking for specific markers, scratches, and characteristics that prove the coins were struck using genuine dies rather than counterfeited. They examine the strike mechanics to ensure the overlapping strikes and mated pair characteristics are consistent with what would actually occur during a genuine minting error rather than being artificially created after the fact. They analyze the metal composition to confirm it matches the standard copper-nickel clad composition used for quarters in 1999. And they examine every microscopic detail of the surfaces to ensure the coins show the correct luster, toning, and characteristics consistent with their claimed grade and history. Only after all of these examinations are complete and every expert involved is 100% certain of authenticity will the coin be encapsulated and certified. And even then, the certification is accompanied by detailed photographs, written reports, and provenance documentation that becomes part of the coin's permanent record. The $34 million valuation for the finest example of this error is based on multiple factors, including the extreme rarity. Possibly only 2 to 3 examples exist. The exceptional visual appeal. These errors are absolutely stunning to look at. The historical significance, first-year state quarter error, the technical complexity, multiple error types combined, and most importantly, the competitive demand from the wealthiest and most serious collectors in the world. When you have billionaire collectors competing for a coin that only 2 or 3 people can own, traditional pricing models break down and value becomes essentially whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay. The most recent private sale of the finest known example, the MS-68 graded coin discovered in 1999, reportedly reached $34 million in a transaction handled by a specialized dealer who represents ultra-high net worth clients and handles some of the most valuable collectibles in the world. The buyer was reportedly a collector from Asia who had been assembling the finest collection of U.S. mint errors ever formed and considered this Pennsylvania quarter to be the crown jewel, the one coin that would make their collection truly legendary. The transaction took months to negotiate and finalize, involving multiple expert opinions, insurance arrangements, legal documentation, and security measures to ensure the safe transfer of such a valuable item. Now, as we reach the conclusion of our journey through these incredible state quarters, I want you to think about what we've learned and what it means for you personally. We've explored 6 different state quarter errors ranging from $18 million to $34 million in value, and we've seen how mint errors, rarity, condition, and collector demand combine to create values that seem almost impossible. But here's the most important message I can leave you with. While these ultra-high value coins are extremely rare, error coins in general are not impossibly rare. People find valuable error coins in circulation every single day. Just this week, news reports came out about a person who found a state quarter error worth $12,000 in their pocket change, completely changing their financial situation. These discoveries happen regularly, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make such a find. All it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and the dedication to examine your coins carefully rather than spending them without a second thought. So here's what I want you to do right now. Before you do anything else, go through every quarter you own. Check your change jar, check your car's cup holder, check your pockets, check anywhere you might have quarters stored. Look at the dates, look at the mint marks, examine the designs carefully for anything that looks unusual or off-center or doubled. Use a magnifying glass if you have one, and look for extra trees on Minnesota quarters. Check your South Carolina quarters for unusual weights or sizes. Examine your Pennsylvania quarters for any signs of multiple strikes or other errors. Take your time, be thorough, because you might be holding a fortune without even knowing it. And if you find anything that looks unusual or questionable, don't spend it. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service for examination. It's worth the small fee to have it authenticated, because what if it turns out to be a genuine error worth thousands or even millions of dollars? You'll never know unless you take that step. Remember, every single ultra-valuable error coin we discussed today was found by someone just like you, ordinary people who happened to pay attention and recognize that something was special. There's no reason you can't be next. The State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 to 2008, produced billions of quarters and countless error coins that are still out there waiting to be discovered. Your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to notice it. I hope this video has been educational, exciting, and inspiring. If you enjoyed learning about these incredible coins, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more amazing content about rare coins and errors, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Share this video with your friends and family so they can start checking their quarters too. You might help someone else discover a life-changing coin. Leave a comment below telling me if you're going to start searching your quarters now. And if you've ever found any interesting coins or errors, share your story because I love hearing from viewers. And most importantly, keep collecting, keep searching, and never stop believing that the next incredible discovery could be made by you. Until next time, this has been Error Coins Hunter, reminding you that fortune favors the observant. Happy hunting, everyone!